Hey there, this is Natalie and welcome to a new video with more interesting, allegedly true stories from Reddit. Remember to gently caress the subscribe button if you want to see more stories like these, read by a proper human and not an AI. Now this story is basically internet drama in its purest form. You'll see what I mean as we get into it. It was originally posted to r/amithebutthole by user hotflan8325. And the comments section on this one is just as interesting as the post. The title is, "Am I the butthole for letting you know I'm divorcing you by sending you a thread on the website that you use to ignore me?" Yes, that's right, this whole post is someone talking to their husband about how they're going to divorce them. And as you might expect, the internet very much took the invitation to get involved. And OP begins. "Hi Stefan, maybe you will finally listen. And if you're wondering if you can just speed home and stop me from doing this and leaving, it's too late. I'm sending you this after I've already loaded everything in the car and left. Don't worry, I spoke with the landlords and took my name off the lease. I've set up a direct deposit for next month's rent. After that, you're on your own, buddy. I guess you're wondering why. I'm guessing you'll act like you're completely blindsided, right? Because you've done absolutely nothing wrong, and you're a great husband and father-to-be, aren't you? Well, buddy, let me break it down for you in a language you understand. I, 29F, have been married to my husband, 35 male, for 5 years, and we've been together for nearly 10. On paper, everything seemed fine, but in reality, our marriage has been anything but. I've reached my breaking point, and I need to know if I'm the one in the wrong here. From the beginning, my mother-in-law has been a nightmare. She made everything about her from day one. At our wedding, she wore white, claiming it was a family tradition. It wasn't. She constantly criticizes me, from my cooking to my appearance. I'll never forget the time she called me fat at a family gathering right in front of everyone. And what did my husband do? Nothing, not a single word to defend me. It didn't stop there. She's accidentally destroyed my belongings, including my grandmother's necklace, which she threw out because it looked like cheap costume jewellery. She's gone out of her way to make me feel small and unwelcome in my own home, but every time I talked to my husband about it, he'd brush it off, saying I was overreacting or being too emotional. And then there's my husband. He's always on Reddit, constantly giving strangers relationship advice, which is laughable considering how he treats me. He spends more time rating women's boobs on Reddit than talking to me, literally. And just so you know, the last pair he rated weren't a 4 out of 10, they were a 10 out of 10. Yeah, he's got plenty of time to do that, but can't be bothered to remember anything about my life. He'll forget my birthday, our anniversary, even simple things like what I'm working on or what's important to me, but he has a perfect memory for his work schedule and things that matter to him. When we fight, he becomes incredibly hostile and always throws in sarcastic buddy at the end of his sentences, like I'm some acquaintance he can barely tolerate. And he never cleans. The house, the dishes, the laundry, you name it, it's all on me. It's like he thinks being an adult is optional, as long as he's got his job and his Reddit account. The final straw came a few weeks ago. I'm 5 months pregnant with our first child, a daughter. My mother-in-law started making comments about how she'll have to whip the girl into shape and how she'll raise her to be tough because I'm too soft. When I told my husband that I didn't want his mother to have too much influence on our daughter, especially with the way she treats me, he just laughed it off, saying his mother means well and that I was overthinking it. But the moment that she truly broke me was when we were talking about future childcare, and my husband suggested that his mother should watch our daughter while we work. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, especially considering how his mother treats me, and he snapped. He called me paranoid and said I should get over it because his mother was going to be a big part of our daughter's life, whether I liked it or not. This is the same woman who believes corporal punishment is okay. I've seen her hit my husband's nephew for the smallest things, and no one does anything about it. It's like they're all living in some kind of cult, and I'm finally waking up to the reality of what's going on. If he wouldn't stand up for me, how could I expect him to stand up for our child? I started to fear for what kind of environment our daughter would grow up in, a place where she might be bullied or belittled by her own grandmother, with a father who wouldn't do anything to stop it. Oh, and did I mention that he missed our first ultrasound? His mother needed him to help with something urgent. It turned out to be fixing her Wi-Fi. He chose that over seeing our daughter for the first time. He told me everything I needed to know about where I stand in his life. So I packed up and left. I'm done living like this. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I've already contacted a lawyer. You can't scare me into complying anymore because I have all those texts. You know exactly which ones I'm talking about. So, Stefan, I wish you all the best in your future marriage with your mother and the women of Reddit whose boobs you don't even deserve. Am I the butthole for leaving my husband after he neglected me for years, let his mother mistreat me, and made me fear for our future daughter's safety? Now, some of this does just sound like, yeah, your husband's kind of lousy, but he hasn't done anything all that terrible. You know, like him maybe spending a lot of time on Reddit, maybe not paying that much attention to you and thinking more about his work and stuff. Those kind of things, maybe some kind of counselling and stuff would enable you to stay together and raise your child. But when it comes to the dependence on his mother, who I think, you know, if she is already using corporal punishment on the existing children in the family, she's right to think that that's probably what her daughter would be in store for if she kind of stayed in the family. And yeah, that's just not something most women would want to put their kid through. The fact the husband just doesn't see it as a problem and even thinks it would be a good thing for the mother to be looking after the granddaughter all the time while they're at work is, yeah, I can kind of see why she wants to leave so badly. Without the mother-in-law stuff, it could be something that could be worked through, but I don't think you can ever really get someone who really loves their mother that much to choose you over them. And it would need to be a case of him outright choosing his wife and daughter over his mother for this to get any better, because it's not like she's going to change and become, you know, a kind mother-in-law and a good grandmother. I expect people are going to jump on the things like the rating the boobs stuff in the comments rather than the more serious issues around the grandmother. But we will see as we dive into the comments on this post. There is a very short update after the comments, so we'll get into that too. Sudden Magazine 4848 says, not the butthole. Question for Stefan. Do you scroll through Reddit comparing boobs to your mom's while she's breastfeeding you? Ramo Barra says, and Stefan is Homelander. We're screwed. Aquaventus says, I wish I could give this post a gold because this was a brilliant FU I'm leaving you note. Not only did OP post the note where her soon-to-be ex will find and read it, but also found a very clever way to make it public. OP, make sure all of the custody arrangements and the visitation arrangements are done with your lawyer and the judge, and without your former mother-in-law. I am sorry it came to this. Your ex never deserved you. Obviously not the butthole. Chuck10O says, OP, that second paragraph is important. When you set up visitation, I'm not sure if you can arrange it so your mother-in-law can't be unsupervised around your child, but you can put in a first right of refusal. Athletic Nerd says, if he's dumb enough to post here, everyone is going to eviscerate his post history. Nosferatu says, Stefan versus Reddit's Titties Committee rating battle would be an awesome watch, not gonna lie. Strangeloop414 says, imagine bro sitting down and reading this at first like, wow, imagine if this was actually for me. Wait, oh that might be me because, oh my god, the necklace thing? The ultrasound? Mom! Fry1 Fat Manic says, he sounds so disinterested in his wife that he'll only realise when he gets home and finds her gone. C Command 3437 replies, and he still won't know why. Silver Twin says, he just throws his hands in the air and says, this came out of nowhere. I wonder what happened. Everything was perfect. I had my mom and my bang made. And the judgment was not the butthole. Then came the small update from a few hours later on the same post, where OP says, tiny update, Stefan has seen this post. He is mad that apparently one of you found him based on the rate my boobs thing. He has deleted his account. For any purposes, I want to clarify that I left out any actual incriminating information that could lead to doxing him. Any and all people who are pretending to know me or have any incriminating information about me are lying. I'm not from South Carolina, I'm not moving in with any other guy, and I'm also not sleeping around. And the comments after that update include, Worker Biotch says, it stays like these that I actually thank God that I was born during the time of the internet. Are you my personal hero? Absolutely yes. Are you the butthole? Not remotely. Way to get rid of a deadbeat husband. This is an actual piece of art. Primary Afternoon 46 says, I can't believe you came between him and his mom, you hussy. OP says, I'm legit the side chick in my marriage. Strangely Unstrange says, out of all the things I've seen on this thread, if this is real, it definitely takes the cake, and the baker too. 10 out of 10 post. A deleted and downvoted commenter says, yeah, the point is you created an account and wanted everyone on your side so you can do a childish thing just to get at your husband you've been with for 10 years. You're part of the problem. That is why everyone sucks here. OP replies saying, I don't know you guys. While it's nice to have people cheering and telling me their stories, there's nothing to be gained from unknown internet strangers. You have no real bearing in my life, so having you on my side makes no difference. The point of this is setting a loud statement, the only way my soon-to-be ex-husband cares about. And in reply to another deleted comment, she says, Baby, no. If anyone treats you like Stefan treated me, leave. This is not normal. A few months ago, I got to witness what an actual healthy relationship is like. A partner should be attentive, care about you, and want to do this for you and with you. They should be fire and flame when it comes to making the relationship work, not just let you carry all the burden. Marriage should not be hard. Only life and marriage should be what makes life manageable. This is not normal. Took me a few months to understand, but you will also understand when you grow. We weren't able to read the deleted post that she was replying to, but we can assume this was from somebody who was in a similar relationship and was choosing to stay and try and make it work. But Johnny Velvet replies to that saying, what do you mean a few months ago you witnessed a healthy relationship? Like witnessed as a third party, or are you agreeing with all the people pretending they know you, saying you had a different partner? They claim that's who you're moving in with. LMAO, I'm sure you saw. OP says, I made a friend through work who invited me over for dinner. Her husband was there, and I saw how they interacted. It was really small, but that was basically what triggered the whole deconstruction. He's since come to work to surprise her, and she's dragged me along to find tiny silly gifts for him. She's always so excited to go home to see him. He always brings her something home. Last week she came in with a shiny rock he'd found for her, and she proudly put it next to her desktop. Mountain Click 8431 says, this is couple goals. And OP replies, they really are, and I have a lot to thank them for. It's like the loving slap I needed to wake up from this nightmare. Especially one night when we were out, not even clubbing but at a night museum tour, and I was being bombarded by calls because he was trying to make me feel bad for being out. My friend looked at me concerned and asked me if I noticed that her husband had texted her only once. I was convinced that going out was awful for everyone. And finally, with regards to getting out of the lease, OP says, you can if you both signed a document and are over the minimum renting time. For us it was 3 years. I gave needed notice, plus it's an individual not an agency, so they have more leeway. I'm sure I would have been screwed if we'd done our leasing through an agency, because as I've heard, they tell you to go pound sand. I also didn't just call today and get it done. It's been in the making a little longer. Today is just D-Day. OP also states she's not in the US. And that's all we have for this story for now. I think the really interesting part there was where she talked at the end about seeing her co-worker and her relationship with her husband, and that making her realise how bad things were for her. Sometimes just seeing a couple who really do love each other and are still really compatible and happy to be together can make people who are in less satisfying relationships really feel what they're missing out on. I mean, I'm currently single, and when I read some of these stories about, really wholesome, sweet couples, of course you kind of feel like, oh yeah, I wish I had that. But it would be so much worse to be in a bad relationship or even just a really dreary one where the other person just doesn't really seem to care about you at all, even if they're not being outwardly abusive or anything like that. And then to see other people enjoying what a relationship should be like, I think that's got to be really difficult to see. At least if you're single, you can hope that that's in your future. Although, in my case, it's kind of also in my past. And when you've had good relationships, you are going to be less likely to accept the monotonous or dreary ones, or the ones with serious problems like this one, where the mother-in-law just isn't going to go away. It does seem like a shame that she didn't get this realization till after she was already pregnant, so now she is going to have to deal with the custody and visitation stuff, as well as becoming a single mother. Whereas if she'd left earlier, had this realization earlier in the 10 years, she could have waited to have children with somebody who she's in a better relationship with. But it could also be that the prospect of having to raise a child in that environment with the overbearing grandmother was the final straw. She says that seeing the other couple that she knows having a healthy relationship was kind of the turning point for her, but I would suspect that it's also a lot about the fear of what she's going to be bringing her daughter into. And maybe if she wasn't pregnant, she might sort of see it as something she just had to suck up and try to make work. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Would you ever consider breaking up with someone you knew used Reddit a lot in this manner? Let me know down below. Here's a story that was originally posted to r/amIthebutthole by user possiblesoil3886. And it's titled, "Am I the butthole for spending my son's university fund on a trip to Europe to drink beer like I always threatened, instead of giving it to his stepbrother after he passed away?" And OP begins, "My son was smart, smarter than me. I almost requested a paternity test because he was so damn intelligent. That is a joke. My ex and I divorced when he was about 12. She remarried when he was 14. I did when he was 16. I had an RESP set up for him. That's an education fund in Canada. As long as he went for post-secondary education, he could use the money for anything. I always told him that I was okay with him not going to university. That way I could use the money I'd saved up for him to go to Belgium and buy some beer from monks that only allow you to buy one case. He knew I was joking, and he always played along. He wouldn't let me get his goat. When he got accepted to McGill, it was the proudest moment of my life. I took him out for a beer to celebrate his achievement and mourn the loss of my trip to Europe. My son was struck and killed by a drunk driver in March. I'm dealing with it. My ex is dealing with it. My wife has been nothing but my rock in this. She is holding me up. I was dealing with the funeral arrangements and everything when my ex came to talk to me about his money. She knew he had a scholarship and was just going to use the money for living expenses and an emergency fund. She asked me what I was going to do with it. I said I was going to do what I always said I was. I was going to Europe to drink beer. She asked if she could have it for her stepson. I thought about it and said no. Her husband is a decent enough person, but he made it clear that he wasn't responsible for any expenses for my son, beyond food and shelter and stuff, obviously. Like I said, he is decent. I said I was not going to do that. I was going to go and drink beer in my son's honour. She says I'm wasting thousands of dollars, and I guess I am. I have to give back to the government a portion of the fund, but I don't care. My ex thinks I'm being stupid and irresponsible, wasting my son's money like this. I don't care. My son would laugh his ass off if he knew I actually did it. And in the comments, No Lavishness 3206 says, "Not the butthole. Sorry for your loss. I thought it was a clickbait title, but this is a sad effing post. I hope you enjoy your trip and pour out some for your homie. It sounds like you guys had a good relationship." GamerCow3991 says, "Dude, sorry for your loss. Enjoy that beer in your son's honour, man. Not the butthole." No Alarm 2208, "Not the butthole. You don't owe your ex-wife's stepson anything. Sorry for your loss. Have that beer in Belgium in memory of your son. Millie Pilly says, I totally agree. You should never have been asked for that money. That was totally out of line. Please spend that money to find joy in this world through your sadness. Jasmina 8487 says, especially while he was dealing with funeral arrangements. This is also the mother of a deceased child too, so instead of mourning her son, she's acting like a damn vulture. Jersey Girl 1105 says, my first thought was, she asked for money at their son's funeral? Mikey MBCA says, no, you misread. Before the funeral, while he was making funeral arrangements for their son. Jesus, OP's ex-wife is a ghoul. Wonder why they split up. Rocket Dong 69420 says, the world may never know. And the overall judgment there was not the butthole. I do think he's absolutely not the butthole for wanting to use the money he'd saved for his son's education to honour his son and, maybe take some time somewhere special to grieve about it. Though I don't necessarily think the ex-wife is necessarily a really bad person for just asking about it. It may be that she just kind of thought, well, he has the money saved up. He doesn't have anything planned for it now, so maybe he would want to give it to her stepson. I think just the fact that she asked isn't entirely terrible, depending how it was done. But the fact that she was angry with him when he said no and that he did have other plans for the money, that's really out of line. It was his savings and, he can use them to honour his son however he sees fit. He doesn't owe anything at all to his ex-wife's new family. And from the sounds of it, he is also considering the fact that her husband, while he, seems like he's been a decent guy, he didn't want to take on any financial responsibility over their son. So it's kind of like, yeah, if the situations were reversed, I don't think the ex-wife's new husband would want to give the money to his son. So, I think he's done absolutely nothing wrong. The ex-wife wasn't necessarily completely out of line when asking about it, assuming it was done in a kind of tasteful way. But, carrying on telling him he's wasting the money, criticising the way he's spending it because he said no, that is a little bit butthole-ish. Still, there is an update, which came 5 days later. Hi everyone. We are on our way to the airport and on our way to Barcelona. We're going to be in Europe for a month. The visit to the monks at West Vleteren will be the last part of our trip. 2 reasons. I don't want to lug beer bottles all over Spain, France, Belgium and Holland. Also, I'm putting it off for as long as I can. For those of you that asked, my son's name is Ryan. He was an amazing kid. I don't know if he got his love of the microscopic world from me. I did teach him how to make his own sourdough starter, and I will be keeping his alive to make loaves and waffles with. His ashes are in our yard on Mount Tremblant, on the shores of the St. Lawrence, and I'll be taking some to Belgium. His grandfathers have many friends buried there, and I think they would approve. I thank everyone that offered to buy me a beer, and while I appreciate the offer, I'm pretty sure my liver and my wife would not have been happy with me. I will be with the monks on the week of June 23rd. If you would like to join me in a toast with your favourite drink of choice, I would love that more. I love knowing that people all around the world know about my son, and he would love knowing he was toasted in such a manner. I spoke with my wife, my ex-wife, her husband and his son. I invited them to join us at my expense for the last week of my trip. My wife's stepson was friends with my son. I didn't know how close until we spoke. They were gaming buddies. They spoke almost every day, playing online. He gave me a picture of my son I didn't have. It's a picture of the two of them at age about 14, 15, at my ex-wife's wedding to his father. My son looked great in his suit. I cried. He did too. We had a very awkward but heartfelt man hug. Then we laughed. They will be coming to say goodbye with us. After talking to my accountant and my lawyer, I was told that I could not have transferred him the value of the RESP. I've decided, after talking to my wife, that we're going to give him enough money to cover 1 year of tuition. Even after my trip, we will have money left over. I'm trying to do some good with it. I also said that he could call us anytime he needed, since he'll be attending school close to us. So funny he got accepted here, and my son was accepted there. I want to thank everyone who shared their condolences with me. I want to especially thank everyone that helped me plan my visit to Belgium. I know we won't see each other, but you were invaluable. I don't think I'll have much to say about this. Maybe I'll post an update after the trip. Oh, that's so wholesome. Obviously, I wouldn't call this a happy story, given, the circumstances, but, the outcome is definitely one where the family managed to find a kind of positive outcome when it came to how they used the money and the way that they all were able to go to Belgium together and do what the father had originally planned to do to honour the son. We're a bit late to do the 23rd of June toast. If I'd known, and if I'd even had this channel back then, I would have definitely raised a glass for him and would have definitely encouraged you to do the same. Because it is just such a really nice idea to think about people all over the world remembering somebody like that. Or because someone opened up on Reddit. And there are some comments on this final update. Snossagefest says, I love updates like this. Too many people here get wrapped up in this ultimate moral right. Recognising you're not the butthole, but you are in a position to help others, and choosing to do so is a lovely way to be, and something we should all aspire to. Magnetic Mist. Truly, OP has an amazing head on his shoulders and heart in his chest. SV Cat says, what a lovely update. I'll put a reminder to have an adult beverage in honour of Ryan the week of June the 23rd. Unicorn527 says, I was going to say it would be great if OP can post an update on the day so we can be reminded and join each other with a drink to Ryan. And it seems there was actually a whole subreddit set up, r/RyanJune23, where people all posted their toasts, which is really heartwarming. But what do you guys think about this post? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for sticking around for these stories today. It really means a lot to me, and I hope to see you again soon for more.